How's it going, everyone? My name is Isaac with Play Ready Golf. I'm excited to jump into this podcast about how to set good goals for 2026 so you can play your best golf moving forward. We're excited to jump into this new podcast. Really, what we want to talk about today is how a lot of golf goals come off as like motivational posters. Like if I was to put like a Michael Jordan poster up on this wall, I'd get up, I'd look at it, I'd be ready to rock and roll, but it's not telling me to do anything. Right. And golf goals come off the same way. Oh, I want to break this score or I want to hit this many golf balls. But how is that impacting your day to day? When it comes to a random Tuesday and you've got half a bucket of balls, how is that actually going to assist you in making the right decision with how to spend your time? So by the end of this episode, you're going to know not only how to set good golf goals, but we're going to help you set one quality golf goal for next year that you can act on a day-to-day basis or on a range to range session basis. Super excited to get into this podcast. Overall, our goal is to give you the knowledge to noticeably improve with the time and the materials and the current processes that you have. I'll kick it over to Hayden now to intro himself.
Hey Isaac, how you doing? I just want to check in
I'm
with you. How's
loving
it
it.
going?
Oh, dude, I'm great. I'm talking to you, so this is going to
I
be a good
know,
time.
I know. I'm excited for us to start this podcast, and yeah, we're gonna have a great time helping you all, helping everyone understand how to get better at golf, understanding that everyone has different um, accessibility to the golf course. People have different ways that they can practice, but it's our job to talk with you all. It's our job to listen to your feedback and just help you to get ready to play ready golf.
Heck yeah. Well, I am a former Division two golfer. For the audience, I'm a former Division two golfer. I've been out of the game for a little while in terms of college. I've now just got a 9 to 5. I play mid-am events, and my primary goal with golf is just to have a lot of fun and still compete at a high level. What about you, Hayden?
So I think this is the cool dynamic that we bring to this podcast. I'm a former Division One golfer, but currently play golf professionally, trying to make it on the PGA Tour. And so the insight that Isaac and I both share comes from two different perspectives. We've both played a lot of golf with high handicappers, with people trying to get better. And so Isaac and I are really going to work towards communicating, explaining the best ways to improve with the time and resources that you have.
Yeah. So we understand you, no matter what level of golfer that you're at. I worked as a club fitter for almost a decade. And so I've worked with people that are way worse than you and people that are way better than you. And I understand that you care and you want to play better golf. And yeah, the idea of golf is to go out and have fun, but like part of having fun is improving. And I'm sure Hayden would agree with me there. But a lot of the time when we are trying to improve, we set goals that just end up setting us up for more guilt. So we either aim way too big and then we fall behind and we feel bad that we fell behind, or we give up on that goal, or we set goals that are way too small. So then we just end up getting there by like the third round of the season, or they don't feel like they're big enough for us to really start pushing ourselves. And so, for example, for me, setting one of those poor goals would be I want to go win the US Mid Am next year. Like, okay, I can control my effort, I can control my process, I can control my practice, but I can't control if like some guy gets on a heater or hot topic if some like ex pro goes and plays in that event. But that's a whole nother podcast.
He's
So
trying to
for
make it to
for
the Masters,
myself, like
man. Come on.
yeah. So for myself, like that would be a good example of like a poor goal. And I don't know if does this happen in professional golf as well, Hayden? I mean, it's your job,
Oh
so I
yeah.
would wonder.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Well, there's the famous example, and I won't go too deep into it, but Justin Thomas posts his goals every year, and it's on a notes app, and he puts a check mark, he puts an X by the ones. And there's been some years he's posted, I'm like, dude, you checked off like one of them, but what does he have on there? He's got, I want to win a major, I want to win 5 PGA Tour, I want to win Player of the Year, I want to be highest in X amount of stat category. So we can definitely set lofty goals as professionals. For myself, this is a confession. I set a lofty goal that is an outcome based goal, and there's no process that's driven towards it every single year. I've yet to have a hole in one. So every single year
mm,
I make the goal, hey, I want to have a hole in one. But what we're going to talk about in this podcast is maybe that's not the most effective way that we make our goals. We want to make our goals in ways that we can measure them, that they're achievable, they're not too lofty, but they're also not too easy that, hey, it's February 15th and I just did my goal for the year. Now what? So that's what we're going to dive into today. So Isaac, do you want to start off, or you want me to start off talking about goals and what we think the right kind of goals to set are?
I'll kick it to you, man.
Awesome. So I think there's two different goals that there's two types of goals that are really important for us to set. There's outcome based goals and there's process based goals. Now, outcome goals are great. Outcome goals can look like I want to shoot in the 80s this year. Outcome goals can look like I want to, have 3 birdies back to back in a round. I want to do something like that. And what's great about outcome goals is that they're very easy to tell. Did I achieve them? Did I not achieve them? However, the problem with your outcome based goals is what? It's just about the outcome. What we want to do is we want to focus on the processes. We want to focus on the things that help us get to those outcome based goals. So, for example, one of my goals this year, and we'll talk later on, but I'll give a preview of one of them. One of my outcome based goals is I want to improve on my swing mechanically. I want to get in certain positions without going too far in depth. I want to get into certain spots that help me hit the ball more on target more consistently. But if I just made that the goal, I wouldn't know how to achieve that. So, in order to make my goal more a process based goal, I say I want to make 100 swings in the mirror that's going to help grow muscle memory. And I say I want to do that 3 or 4 times a week in order to get to that spot where I help and improve in my muscle memory. I improve on that swing mechanical change that I want to have. Isaac, do you have any kind of outcome based goals that we might want to change to process based?
No, I think you make a good point there is, it's a funnel, right? Like, it's okay to set or to have in the back of your mind, like, a scoring average goal, but there's a lot of pieces that go into that, and we need to narrow that down to maybe the biggest lever. For example, for myself, like, I don't have as much time as I used to practice, and so now for myself, when I set these goals, for example, like I'll give an outcome based one. Like I want to win the Miami Valley Mid Am next year. That's an outcome goal,
It's a
right?
great goal.
But I understand like okay, for myself, based on this year's results, what I have to get better at in each category. So I'm breaking it down by like okay, I need to keep the ball in play. I need to three putt less, if not pretty much never. And I also understand that I need to hit a bunch of greens. And then I can break down those goals from there into actionable insights for each day. So, for example, I've been spending 10 minutes a day just putting in my office at least.
Yeah.
And making sure that everything's still checking out. I still have a good feel, and it's freezing cold here in Ohio right now, but like I'm still able to work on my game for a goal that I have that's outcome based next fall, but I've got an actionable thing that I can do every single day so that I don't necessarily obsess over the goal or worry about the outcome when I can't control the input, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. You always have to think about when we make these goals, what does March look like? What does April look like? Am I going to forget about my goal? Or am I going to forget about how it's going to be achieved? And if we make these goals, it's I just want to win this tournament, and we don't think about how it's actually going to get done, then we'll get to those months, 2, 3, 4 months ahead, and we'll kind of forget on what's going to help us get to that way. So yeah, figuring out in the process, what can I do daily? What's controllable? What can I measure in order to get better? So yes, if you're going to have the goal of improving a certain aspect of your game, you make the process goal. I want to have 90 minutes of X this week. I want to track all of my stats for every single round in order to know, hey, did I actually get better with my irons? Someone says I want to hit more fairways. That's great. It's a great goal. We'll talk about later in another episode about how important it is for us off the tee to be really strategic and have big improvements. But if we're not tracking our stats, then how are we going to know if we improved or not? So having certain things that are measurable, that are attainable, that are controllable are really going to be things that help us make good goals
Yeah, and
for 2026.
I want to bring up one little point before we get into the rest of this episode is these goals and this conversation can feel kind of lofty and heavy, but at the end of the day, the goal is to set goals that allow you to take action with low friction. So, what I mean
Yeah.
by that is, I want it to be as easy as possible for you to take action on improvement.
Yeah.
If the goal is to go shoot a certain scoring average over the course of a season, and the way that you decide that you want to attack that is by going and hitting 100 balls 5 days a week outside, like, well, there's a lot of friction there. I got to get in the car. I got to go outside. It might be cold. okay, now I got to go to book a simulator or the simulators, but we want to set really low friction as much. We want to remove as much friction as possible because if there's a lot of friction between you and the action, odds are you're not going to go do it the majority of the time.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, what would Isaac? What would you say to someone that says, "Okay, I'm in a cold place during the winter, but I want to get better. I want to get ready for playing good golf in 2026. Look, I want to have a goal of I want to hit more greens. What are some of those low friction things that they can do in order to hit more greens and a goal that they could set for themselves? Just an
Yeah, I,
example.
I think that that boils down to learning your own game. Right. And so we need to find a way to where we can create a system. And I'm speaking to the 9 to 5ers here. We need to create a system that's reliable. So I don't want you wasting time at a simulator hitting 107 irons in a row. For you with a 9 to 5, like for example, I get right now 1 hour simulator a time a week. I am hitting, I'm hitting two of the same club in a row for my warm up, and I'm not really worrying about where that ball's going. And that's like 5 minutes. And then after that, I'm changing clubs
Hey,
every
because
single time.
those 1 hour simulator times. I mean, it goes quick.
They fly
It
by,
goes
right?
quick.
So we want to make sure that we're getting the most out of that so that we can learn the most about our movement pattern. Um, there's a ton of great coaching out there. And if you have the time and the resources to go and work with a great coach to improve your swing, I think that's phenomenal. But speaking to creating less friction and making sure that we're getting the most out of our practice time, and I think it's really, really important to put yourself under as much stress and pressure as possible so that you learn your own tendencies so that when you do get outside in April, May, now you're ready to rock and roll and you're not trying to relearn your tendencies. You already know them. So, for example, I've been working on creating one shot off the tee for the past few weeks. And part of creating one shot off the tee is, and I'm learning that my movement pattern for the most part is for a draw. Okay. With the driver anyway.
Yeah, your
And
natural shot shape.
natural shot shape is a draw. But part of being able to hit a draw reliably is understanding if I'm hitting a fade, why. And so part of my practice is alternating between draws and fades so that I can really feel the difference. I'm not recommending that for everybody, but I am purely focused on learning my own tendencies right now. Because if I don't know my tendencies under less pressure, it's going to be really hard for me to understand my tendencies when I do get under pressure because I'm not going to have a baseline. If I'm just trying to create a baseline effectively.
Yeah.
I think I got off on a little tangent there, but
Yeah, no, that's good. No, that makes complete sense. So we've talked about the difference between process goals and outcome goals. We've
mhm.
talked about, in terms of things, what are your limitations? What are your I'm losing my train of thought right here. I'm gonna get it real
Weaknesses.
quick. We're good. What are the time and resources that you have in terms of when it comes to golf? So, Isaac, let's move on to, what are some of the things that people are what's a myth? What are the things that people aren't really understanding when it comes to goal setting?
Yeah, I think that, and a lot of this is due to social media. And listen, like I'm doing my best to not feed into this as somebody who runs a lot of different golf media channels, but there's a lot of quick fixes out there. There's a lot of DIYing out there, and that's great. But here's the problem. If I walk into the doctor and I say I'm not feeling healthy, he's going to know how to diagnose me. If I go to a PJ professional or a swing coach and I say, hey, I'm hitting the ball poorly or I'm doing this or that, they're going to know how to diagnose me. I don't know how to diagnose myself. And so walking up to a YouTube video or getting on Instagram, I'm going to be sold a lot of prescriptions, but I don't know what's wrong. So now I'm just guessing on what is wrong and I'm guessing on the solution and I can accidentally be right, but odds are I'm most likely going to be wrong. And so a lot of these goals that we're going to end up setting are going to be to quote unquote fix our swing or get more shallow or just bang balls as much as possible and learn that way or it's a lot of like vibe goals is what I'd call it.
Yeah,
Especially
it
like
might
during
feel
COVID,
good
like
in the moment, but yeah,
exactly. And like okay, for example, like when George Genkus was popping during COVID, Matthew Wolf was killing it, like shallowing was all the rage, right? Yeah, it works for some people. It's like saying that, like, I don't know, the Ford F-150 is the best vehicle for everybody. Like, well, probably not. Like, the
Yeah.
Duggars wouldn't have fit in that thing, so it's not gonna like,
Yeah.
you can't prescribe one thing that's gonna be a fix when everybody's swing is different based on physical limitations, how long they've been playing, like, everything's gonna be different.
Yeah.
So
I
now we
like,
need to set these, and what makes these goals difficult now is we need to figure out ways to set smart goals, which is difficult in golf because measurement requires a little bit of effort. And we'll talk a little bit later about ways where we can measure with less friction and less effort. But I don't know what are some easy ways for us to set smart goals on the course, Hayden?
yeah. So I first want to say, I really like that doctor analogy. That makes complete sense because if we can't diagnose ourselves, we probably can't set goals that are going to accurately reflect on what needs to be fixed in 2026. In terms of setting smart goals, I actually want to go off on a little bit of a tangent because I think some of the things that we forget to improve on, I think some of the things we forget to set goals around. When it comes to golf, I mean, what is one of the most important things? It's our mental game. As a professional, we are really, really focusing. We're really working on what can I get better at mentally? How can I have better thoughts? How can I have better reactions to certain things that happen on the golf course? You almost get to a point in professional golf where the skill level starts to even out with everyone. Everyone starts to get to a certain point where it just depends on if it's your day or not in terms of skill. However, what sets people apart astronomically is their mental fortitude, their mental focus, how they prepare, how they plan, how they think around the golf course. So I don't know if we're setting enough mental goals. I don't know if we're thinking about how we can improve in the off season in these months. Isaac and I currently right now are both in colder weather. How can I get better at putting myself in these months in, I call it tournament conditions. You might call it playing conditions in a way it's like, oh, I'm a little nervous right now. There's out of bounds right, and I'm 3 holes away from shooting in the 70s for the first time. I'm just shot my best on the front nine. How can I do that or repeat it or do whatever on the back nine? So, we need to think about, and Isaac will talk about this again in future episodes. So, stay tuned. We're going to talk about this in depth. So if we don't go super far into it, we will later in the future. But how can I visualize certain things on the range? How can I play a hole on the range? How can I look at a flag when I'm getting ready to hit a tee shot in the range and say, okay, there's out of bounds left. There's water here. Here's the hardest hole that I typically play at my local muni, at the country club I belong to. This whole, I mean, it's just a round ruiner. How can I prepare, practice for that so that one day I can get up to that spot and I know that I've prepped and prepared and I've executed and gotten up to that spot. There's a story of a professional golfer that used to be at my home course from my hometown in Louisville, Kentucky. And this was when I was in college and I was grinding. And at that time, I would consider myself a range rat. It'd be, wake up in the morning, eat breakfast, work out, do something. But if it was 12 to 8, I was at the golf course. I was bringing a lunch. And I knew that this professional golfer was at the golf course. His name was Dustin. And I was always trying to, play with him, play 9 holes, obviously play with someone who is better so that I can improve. And he, definitely kicked my butt a lot of times. But that one time or 2 times that I beat him, I'd feel really good. But Dustin would never be on the range, and he was playing professional golf. He actually shot, I believe, in the 50s in a Corn Ferry Q school, one of the rounds. And so Dustin was a player, but he was never at the range. And so a couple times that I'd be out on the golf course and then I end up bumping into him, I'd be like, "Oh, Dustin, you want to go play a couple holes?" And you say, "Yeah." And so I eventually asked him, like, "Hey, tell me, like, why do I never see you at the range?" He's like, "Oh, well, I go there to warm up, but how many times am I hitting on a perfectly flat, perfectly set up lie, like on a par three, and that's it." The tee shot with my driver, and that's it. But like
Yeah.
everything else that we get going on out here, this is all new. So I tell that story to all that to say, when we set these goals, we got to understand that we're not playing golf all the time on these perfectly flat, perfectly set up ranges or tee boxes. It's just not the case. Heck, half the time, we're playing these par threes. We can even find grass if you're playing at a public course, or and so we just got to recognize and realize, okay, let's realistically think, what does my golf look like, and how can I set a goal that's accordingly accurate towards that?
Yeah. So kind of what I'm hearing is the goals need to be more specific than just like be better. Like that feels like I want to make more money goal. Like, okay, well, all of us do, right?
Yeah,
We need to pick a goal that's like one easy lever that we can pull that actually is going to impact how we play golf. And if we can't necessarily pull that lever regularly during a normal busy week, it's probably not a goal, right? It's more of like just a
exactly,
fantasy.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's think through some scenarios where if we can kind of help ourselves set goals. I wrote down a few questions that we can just easily answer yes or no. That'll give us a good idea if we've got some data to back up the goals that we're about to set. So,
Yeah.
do you know the number one strokes lost category from your last 5, 10 rounds, maybe even from this year? And if you don't, that's fine. This is just something where we're just trying to get an idea of what do we need to track so that we can set reasonable, realistic, smart goals, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Like
hand
I
up,
know for myself,
hand
mine's
up.
putting.
I do. I know that, but you want to know why I know that? Because I'm a professional. I do it for a living.
Yeah.
Odds are, if you're listening to this, you're not a professional. You don't
Mhm.
do it for a living. It's going to be something that you got to put time and effort into if you want to get better. But look, if you don't want to get better, this podcast isn't for you. It's not. But I know you want to get better. We know that you want to have those lower rounds. We know that you want to birdie the last hole, because why? It always brings you back. It always brings you
Yeah.
back. Okay, so keep going, Isaac. Sorry, I
Yeah.
interrupted a
No,
little
that's
bit.
great. That's a great point. So let's funnel one down. So we now know the strokes loss category, our worst category, right? Off the tee, approach, around the green, putting. So what's one weekly action that you tied to it that took 30 minutes or less? If you were working on it, was there one? And were you doing it weekly? Were you doing it monthly? One great quote that I hear all the time on the Nick Bear podcast from Jeff Cunningham is it's better to be consistently good than occasionally great. And I think a lot of us take
Ooh,
a
that's good.
occasionally great approach to practice as opposed to the
Yeah,
consistently good. And consistently good can be 30 minutes or less every week. So what's
yeah,
that category that we're losing the most from? Is there a weekly action that we can tie to it that takes 30 minutes or less? And is that already scheduled or no? And
yeah,
if it's not, that's what we're about to get into is
yeah,
what does that need to be? How do we schedule that out? How do we make it a low friction goal? So I
yeah.
don't know. Let's think, what are some ways that we can start tracking this? Like really easy ways to maybe not even necessarily track our whole stats, but track practice or track these goals.
Yeah, so we can put stuff down in the calendar. You can write stuff in that happens over time. I know that a lot of people post their handicap on the Gin app. Quick tangent, you call it Gin or Gin?
Jen.
Okay, good. We're on the same page. We can continue with this podcast, because I don't know if we could have continued if you pronounced it Gin, but I know
Well,
you
there's
can
a great
enter.
newsletter called Gin and Tonic,
It's a very good one.
GHIN
I
Tonic,
like
very
that one.
quality.
Yeah, but I think you can put your stats in that, or you can at least put your hole by holes in there. But the great thing is that this podcast is brought to you by Play Ready Golf, and we have the ability to track your stats. They have the ability to record rounds. You can put notes down. You can figure out things like, oh, this happened in this round. I want to tuck that away. But just as important it is to track our stats, it's also important, we're going to go back to it, to track our goals. So Isaac and I, we are very, very passionate about wanting to plan things out in the future. Both of us are a little bit more type A in terms of we want to have things organized and orderly. So we're just going to encourage you guys, whatever goals you make. Look, this podcast is being released January 2nd, 2026. Everyone's going to be in the New Year's resolution mode. Everyone's going to be in the goals mode. Whether you're doing a golf goal or not, I encourage you guys, write your goals down. Write your goals down. Put them in a spot that you see regularly. If it's your work desk, if it's on your nightstand, just having that around, having that visual cue, like, oh, this is something that I felt so strongly about at one time that I wrote it down. it'll just kind of give you some more encouragement to work towards those goals. If you don't, on a post-it note in the notes app, those things are great. You can absolutely do that. I just know for myself that my notes app, I mean, it like I could just scroll and scroll
Oh yeah,
forever.
I think
I mean, it's crazy.
I've got
From
462 notes in iCloud
Yeah,
right now.
from
I
grocery
need to clean that
lists
out.
to,
Yeah.
friends' birthdays and anything, right? I mean, like, it's lost. If I just wrote something down in the notes app, give it 1 week, it's gone. But you write it down, you put it down somewhere, I think that's gonna stay around for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, let's walk through how we can set one of these goals, right? We're going to start big picture. What is a big goal of yours? So, we'll start with say your goal is to break 80 this year, right? Now we're going to break that down
Great
by
goal. Love that.
yep, really high level, right? Okay, but it's measurable. We either do it or we don't, right? Okay, now let's break that down one bit. What's a big lever that we can pull with that? So, for instance, let's say that our approach play needs to improve. We need to just hit more greens, right? Getting up and down's hard enough. Let's just try to hit more greens. Okay. How can we improve how we hit greens? For somebody who's just trying to break 80, all right, I need to be making solid contact and starting it relatively at my target for the most part. Like solid contact and start at the green, right? If it curves away from the green, that's fine. But I just need to know that I can make solid contact and start it relatively close to where I want to hit it. And then how are we going to work on that on a week to week basis? So, for example, if you get 1 hour a week right now to hit into a net or into a simulator, or you're luckily down south and you get it to get out to a range, let's figure out a way where we spend 15 minutes alternating between three clubs, changing targets, and all that we're focused on is making solid contact, staying on balance, and starting it at our target. And if we can do those three things, like I used to say this all the time, I still do say it all the time. It is really hard to have a bad shot where you finish on balance and you hit it out of the center of the club face. It is really hard to do
Yeah,
that. So if we can
yeah.
stay on
Hey, that
balance, hit
goes
it out of
that
the center of
goes
the club.
that goes from the bottom of the game to the top of the game, 100%.
So that's the goal, right? That's how we're going to break down this goal. So if you've got questions on how we kind of break that down. Once again, we're going to set a big goal. We're going to pick one big lever that we can pull. How are we going to measure that? And then how are we going to do that on a weekly basis? And this should be fun too, right, Hayden? Like this isn't a
Oh,
business.
yeah, goal setting should be fun. Again, like for me, is my first hole in one. I mean, that's going to be a euphoric moment, and it is fun. And I poke fun at it's an outgoing goal, and I'm really not ever on the range. Like, all right, this is the year we make the hole in one, but getting more birdies, shooting scores that surprise you, hitting shots that you're thinking about on the drive home. The good shots that you're thinking about on the drive home, not the ones like, oh, it ruined my round. That should be, what golf is all about. Hanging out with friends, hitting good shots, improving. Our biggest improvements come from giving ourselves structure, giving ourselves the ability to transition our goals from process goals that'll help make golf more fun.
Yeah. And then we've got our goals. We've told people how to set them, but I think we need to talk about our goals. That'd
I
be
think we
kind
do.
of hypocritical if we didn't. So I'll start with mine. I've got one big goal for next year. Keep in mind, I've got a 9 to 5. I got to keep these goals simple, right? This year was arguably my worst putting year that I can remember, and so my biggest goal is to get back to zero-ish strokes gained putting compared to my peer group. Um, and the way that I've been working on that is in the off season here, I'm just putting in my office 10, 15 minutes a day, making sure I'm starting it online, doing more like the quote unquote block style practice. I've got some more space in the living room where I can roll like 20 footers. And so then I'm working on distance control a little bit, still carpet. Then once I get outside, the goal is to spend 90% of my putting time just on green reading and putts outside of 30 feet. Like I just want to be lethal with speed because I know that I don't have the time anymore to get super dialed with my irons, but I know I have the time to hit a bunch of greens. So if I can just break it down that simply, I'm just trying to spend more quality time on the putt distances and learning how to read greens again so that I can continue my solid iron play, continue staying solid off the tee, and then hopefully take advantage of accidentally making a few more putts. So that is my 2026 golf goal.
Hey guys, don't let him lie to you. I caddied for Isaac. He was the medalist at one of the Ohio AM qualifiers this year, and he canned a 30-foot putt on the last hole. I mean, don't let him lie to you. He's a good putter.
That was the last time I need you to caddy for me more often because that was the last time that I putted. I putted actually, when I putted well when we won that doubles event together, but those were on aerated greens. So and you putted really well there too. So maybe we just need to put on aerated greens with each other more. I think
With
that's
each
we play more
other,
golf
caddy
together.
for each other,
Yeah, exactly.
do everything, podcast with each other. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it sounds like anything that you and I do, it just is successful. So
We
it
we
sounds
start
good.
dropping putts right after. Yeah.
There you
Well,
go.
okay. What are your golf goals, Hayden?
So I know I alluded to one of them in terms of making mechanical changes, and when I said swinging in the mirror, slow swings, just making sure I'm getting in the right positions. But two other things that I'm looking to do. One of them I'll focus on it more because I just went on my rant about improving our mental. I want to read 3 golf focused books on mental growth by the month of June. Now, why the month of June? I have the whole year. Most of my competitive golf in my summer begins the May, June, July timeframe. So if I can read 3 different books, that'd be good. Now, would it be a super awesome, great goal if I named those 3 books? Yes, it would, but I don't know what those books are yet. I know one of them could probably be Dr. Bob Rotella book. I know
Yeah.
those are very, very good. I have one that I'm halfway through as Isaac goes to grab which one is this one?
Fluid
Fluid.
motion factor. This is great for golfers. This is great for all athletes. I think it's just a really, really solid read about kind of getting in the zone. But
Love that.
that's just a
Hey, that
suggestion.
might be one of the 3. And then my last one is to get 118 club head speed cruising. Now, obviously, that's an outcome goal, but by me saying the word "by," I think when you make these outcome goals, if you use the word "by," like "by," then it transitions to, okay, what are the things that could make it happen? So I use this speed improvement system called the Stack. And basically, it's a weighted swing and it records through an app, but that will help improve. And so if I go through that whole system through the winter into tournament play, I will absolutely reach that. But those are my goals for 2026. I'm
Well, that's
pumped.
great. Well, if you are wanting to play your best golf this year with the time and resources that you have, we're launching the Play Ready Golf app mid March. There's going to be some limited edition founders pricing through the Masters. Play Ready Golf is all about taking the skill level that you're currently at, the time and resources that you have, and giving you a practice plan that you can act on that is going to noticeably help you play better golf. And you can track all your stats in there. You get to track your training program, just like if you were doing a weightlifting program. We're doing some beta testing right now. We'll be doing that until, like I said, about mid March, and then we'll be running this super limited time. Probably a one time only deal of over 50% off for life, starting mid March and running through the Masters. So make sure you stay connected to us one way or another. We've got a newsletter, we've got a YouTube channel, we've got Instagram, we've got this. So
Yeah.
make sure you stay informed on that. And then I don't know if you got anything else, Hayden, before we call it a day on this first podcast.
Yeah, I don't think so. For podcast listeners, it will be coming soon. There will be a discount code. And so
Mhm.
that will be in the future. Stay tuned for that. But everyone, thank you for listening. This is our first podcast. We're
Yeah,
super pumped to continue to talking about golf improvement, the time and resources that you have, all of it. And then, yeah, I'm with my boy Isaac. We're having a great time.
love it. Well, time is limited, so waste nothing and go play some ready golf.
See y'all.